Well, guys, here you go. We've got more executive orders. I mean, he's just zinging them out there. This guy is a machine. I couldn't keep up with him when I was 20. I mean, it's like, go, go, go. So anyways, let's see what he's up to in the way of executive orders today.
It's very important. Will, perhaps we'll go through the first one, please.
Yes, sir. So earlier today, before the press came in, you signed a commission appointing Chris Wright to be your next Secretary of Energy. We have another commission prepared for your signature, sir. This is Doug Collins to be Secretary of the VA. Doug Collins of Georgia.
Two very good men.
Doug Collins, good old country boy.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next up, in light of numerous actions taken by a number of bodies of the United Nations which exhibit a deep anti-American bias, we have an executive order prepared for your attention that would withdraw the United States from the UN Human Rights Council, would withdraw the United States from the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization, and would also review American involvement in UNESCO, which has also exhibited anti-American bias. More generally, the executive order calls for a review of American involvement and funding in the UN in light of the wild that, as you've expressed previously, is deeply unfair to the United States.
Hold it. You can't do that. President Trump, what are you thinking? The UN is untouchable. They're sanctimonious. They're the Holy Grail. I mean, who are you to be messing with the UN?
So I've always felt that the UN has tremendous potential. It's not living up to that potential right now. It really isn't, hasn't for a long time. It has, there are great hopes for it, but it's not being well
I'm sorry, but you just can't wipe away the UN with an executive order.
run, to be honest, and they're not doing the job. A lot of these conflicts that we're working on should be settled, or at least we should have some help in settling them. We never seem to get help. That should be the primary purpose of the UN, the United Nations. And again, it's got great potential, and based on the potential, we'll continue to go along with it, but they got to get their act together.
Well, I guess you can sign it away.
Need to do, sir, to get their act together.
Well, you got to be fair to countries that deserve fairness. They have some countries, as you know, that are outliers, that are very bad, and they're being almost preferred as countries to.
Yeah, you get Hamas, Gaza. They're always praised for being humanitarianism and so forth and blah, blah, blah. They're just a bunch of rapists and murderers, but the UN holds them up. I guess it's easier to say the big guy is the bad guy.
Those that do their job and are doing a good job, and they have to really, they're going to end up losing. A lot of countries are going to end up losing their credibility like other organizations, and then they're going to be nothing. The potential of the United Nations, and not everybody agrees with me on this, the potential of the United Nations is fantastic if properly run. So we'll see what happens.
How much money are you willing to take away from them?
Well, we're taking away a little bit, but we're not looking to take away money. This is so important that we're really, as you know, the United Nations is largely funded by us. But, and it shouldn't be. It should be funded by everybody, but we're disproportionate, as we always seem to be. But it's something that if it ever lived up to the potential, right now it doesn't have that power.
Next, sir, this is a national security presidential memorandum that seeks to impose maximum pressure on the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Many of these provisions are similar to actions that your administration took during your
All right, Iran, Trump's coming. Be careful. Get ready.
first administration. The basic idea here is to have every department and agency, or many departments and agencies in your government attempt to sanction and control Iranian activities, particularly relating to the Iranian nuclear program and the Iranian export of terrorism through support of various proxy groups abroad. And the intent here is to give you all of the possible tools I'd say, engage with the
Now, why do they have a nuclear program? Last thing on earth is you want them to have a nuclear program. They're terrorists, and the first thing they'll do is they'll hold that over the head of Israel. That's why Israel bombs the crap out of their nuclear facilities every time they get a chance.
Iranian government to ensure that going forward they're less of a malign actor on the world stage.
So this is one that I'm torn about. Everybody wants me to sign it. I'll do that. It's very tough on Iran. It's what we had before. We would have never had the problem. You would have never had October 7th. We would have never had the problem had the election gone a different way, which it should have. But this one, I think, more than made up for it. I think we're doing things, and it shows that more than made up for it, much more historic. The Iran situation, hopefully, I'm going to sign it, but
I think what Trump says there basically is if he had won the second time, it would have been good, but it would have just been a continuation of the first. And the first one, he just was learning a lot. Didn't know anybody in Washington, went there. People told him who to select for these offices, and most of them turned out to be rhinos. But after he had 4 years to kind of look at Washington and see how dirty all those people were and how they would come after him with fake political lawfare, he said, screw it. I'm going to go in like a tornado and clean up this place.
hopefully we're not going to have to use it very much. We will see whether or not we can arrange or work out a deal with Iran, and everybody can live together, and maybe that's possible, and maybe it's not possible. So I'm signing this, and I'm unhappy to do it, but I really have not so much choice because we have to be strong and firm, and I hope that it's not going to have to be used in any great measure at all. It'd be great if we could have a Middle East and maybe a world at total peace. Right now you don't have that. When I left, you had peace all over the world, and now you have the world is blowing up.
I think what he's doing there is offering Iran an olive branch.
Bibi is coming in to see me later. Others are coming in to see me. We'll see what we can do. But I'm signing this, and hopefully it will be a document which won't be very important, will hardly have to be used.
So what kind of deal would you be prepared to
Well,
make
we're going to
with Iran?
see. I mean, we're going to see. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. With me, it's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Mr. President, are you going to engage in conversations with your counterpart in Iran?
I would.
Do you want to block the sale of Iranian oil to other nations?
Well, we have the right to do that, and that's what I did before. And they had no money. They wouldn't have had the money for Hamas or Hezbollah and anybody else. It could have been solved. This thing, if things went the way they should have, this would have been.
Do you think Iran is to developing a nuclear weapon?
I think they're close. They're too close. But again, you could go back 4 years. I would have said they would have had it during this intervening period. But they're pretty close, Peter.
And why?
There is a bombing in their near future, I believe, if they don't straighten up and make some kind of agreement with the U.S. that can be verified.
Say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why. Lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to
Lack of intelligence, you think?
a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing this, and it's a very powerful document, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it.
Mr. President, if the Prime Minister today were to ask your help in striking at Iran's nuclear facilities to prevent the kind of progress towards a nuclear weapon, would you give him the green light?
He's not going to answer this.
Would it, either to do it himself or for the U.S. to participate with him?
I don't know that that's what he's going to be asking for. I have no idea that it is. You're telling me. We're going to have a pretty long meeting. We're going to be discussing a lot of things, not only that, but a lot of things. And I'll let you know if the time comes to let you know, but right now that's not something that I can discuss.
Told you.
President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah, that would be called total obliteration. And I can't imagine they do that. It should have been stated by Biden, but he didn't state it because he had no clue, as you know, as everybody knows.
What is your vision actually for relationship
Do you
with
have
Iran?
anything else?
No, that's all we have.
My vision for
For a
what?
relationship with Iran, and what do you? What
I'd
do you
love to
think
have a
Israel
good
would-
relationship with everybody. They can't have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing that was very important. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Beyond that, it would be very tough if they insist on doing that.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon, period.
They have some of their leadership, I can tell you right now, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but there are many people at the top ranks of Iran that do not want to have a nuclear weapon just for that very reason.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to China's retaliatory tariffs?
It's fine. It's fine. We're going to do very well against China and against everybody else. Right now, they've taken advantage of the Biden administration like I've never seen. I've never seen. The deficit with China is about $1 trillion. Think of it, $1 trillion. They're using our money to build their military. And Biden let that happen. You know, we're taking a lot of fires here. We came back. This is like a different place. The good news is we're doing very well. We're doing well with countries that nobody expected we'd do well with. We are respected again as a nation, maybe at a level that people haven't seen for many, many decades. But when I left, we didn't have any wars. I defeated ISIS, 100% of the ISIS caliphate, and now the world seems to be ready to blow up, but we'll see if we can stop it.
Mr.
President,
President,
update
Have
about when
the
you'll speak to
Iranians
President
about
Xi.
any kind of
Say
deal?
it.
Have you reached out to the Iranians about any kind of deal to start
I'm thinking Trump is not a fan of Biden. What do you think?
those
I would
discussions?
reach out. I mean, I have nothing. I say I'm one that doesn't care whether I reach out or they reach out. A lot of people say, "Let them reach out, sir." And to me, it doesn't matter. It's
That
just
hasn't
it's
started
just
yet.
talk. But I want to see everybody do well. I want to see great countries, and I want to see peace in the Middle East and elsewhere. We're also working very hard with respect to Russia, Ukraine. That's a bloodbath. It's a total bloodbath. What's going on there is incredible. What's going on with the soldiers.
Oops, you can't use that word. It'll be all over the news tomorrow. Trump yells for bloodbath against Ukraine and Russia. That's what The View will say.
Young soldiers being killed by the thousands. I mean, literally by the thousands. And we want to see if we can get that.
They say there's some fields in Ukraine where you could actually walk across the field and never have to step on the ground. There's just bodies everywhere.
Stopped. And I think we've had some very good talks.
Any update on when you would speak to President Xi, sir? Any update on when you would speak to President Xi?
No, we'll speak to him at the appropriate time. I'm in no rush. At the
Do
appropriate
you
Mr.
think that
President-
conversation can lend itself to the type of freeze that it meant for the tariffs for Canada and
Well,
Mexico?
we'll see what happens. I mean, well, there's a short-term freeze with Mexico, and, as you know, and with Canada. But they've agreed to be very, very strong on the border, stronger than they ever were by far, by a factor of about 30. And in addition to that, as you can see, we've been strong because we've had numbers like you've never seen before. I mean, the border is now closed, really closed. And with
Border is closed. Holman said it's down 93%, I think. I mean, because every once in a while somebody comes over and makes a run for it, and, you know, he'll be running away from the fence across the desert, and they'll send 3 Blackhawks after him. Poor guy.
that being said, we're letting good people come through, and we want good people to come into our country. But the border is closed.
Just like Trump always said, you know, he's for immigration. He wants legal immigration. He wants people to do it the right way. I mean, he did marry an immigrant.
In your talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, do you intend to press him about how many deaths there have been amongst Palestinians? Are you concerned about that death?
I talk about that too. You know, both sides mean a lot. I talk about that. I talk about the other side. I talk about everything.
What's your main message to him today during your meeting?
Well, I'm here to listen. He's here to see me, and I'm here to listen. So
Will you
There's
continue
not
to
much of a
press?
message.
will
At
you
the right
continue-
time, I'll give them my
Mr.
message.
President, will you continue to press for this idea?
Take some look. The Gaza thing has not worked. It's never worked. And I feel very differently than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and
Somewhere else.
make it a
They say they don't
home.
want to leave, though. Palestinians say they don't want
Well, they used to call those things Playa del Sol or something like that. You know, in Mexico, you'd go down and you'd spend the weekend or a week.
to leave.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. It's a pure demolition site. If we could find the right piece of land or numerous pieces of land and build them some really nice places with plenty of money in the area, that's for sure, I think that would be a lot better than going back to Gaza, which has had just decades and decades of death.
Where would those pieces of land be?
Well,
if
they
those
could
Arab
be in
countries
Jordan,
don't want
and they
to?
could be in Egypt, and they could be in other places. You could have more than two, more than one, but you could have more than two, and you'd have people living in a place that could be
You can build condos anywhere in the world, and Trump knows condos.
very beautiful and safe and nice. Gaza's been a disaster for decades.
Would the U.S. pay for that?
I don't think
Contribute?
I don't
Would the
think
United
the
States
UN would
contribute?
pay, but I think there's plenty of people that would in the area. They have a lot of like to see it. I know that Saudi Arabia wants to see peace. I can see that, and many of the countries there, as far as I'm concerned, they all want peace. I think, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think Iran would like to see peace too. They've had enough. Don't you think they've had enough?
But the leaders of Egypt and Jordan have said bluntly they have no interest in doing this.
Well, they may have said that, but a lot of people said things to me. They said they wouldn't take anybody back in Venezuela, and right now they're flying them right back into Venezuela. And a lot of people, and they're doing the right thing in Venezuela. The Panama Canal is an active discussion right now. They said things about that, and virtually everything that's been said has been incorrectly stated based on the result.
Doesn't that amount to forcibly displace, or wouldn't that amount to forcibly displacing those people from Gaza? If
I don't
they say
think
they
so.
want
I think
to?
if they had the opportunity, they'd love it. If they had an alternative to Gaza. They have no alternative right now. I mean, they're there because they have no alternative. What do they have? It is a big pile of rubble right now. I mean, have you seen the pictures of it? Have you been there? It's terrible to live. Who can live like that? And very dangerous. There's shooting all over the place. There's bombing all over the place on both sides. Now, I would think if they had an option of
One thing about Trump is he just has a way of making things seem, hey, this is common sense, right? Who would want to go back to the bombed out rubble? Now, I'm sure everybody wants to go home, but it's not going to be better for the next 10, 15 years. I'm sure a lot of people just say, screw this, let's go find a better place to live.
moving to an area, either in a large group or various smaller groups, and take care of the close to 2 million people, I would think that they would be thrilled to do it. They have no, when you say about the Gaza Strip, they don't have an option.
To be clear, you're saying they'd be thrilled.
very dangerous.
They'd be thrilled to leave Gaza.
Oh, I think they'd love to leave Gaza if they had an option. Right now, they don't have an option. What are they going to do? They have to go back to Gaza. But what is Gaza? There's practically not a building standing, and they're very dangerous. Those buildings are shifting and they're falling down all over the place, and there's gunfire all over.
While the war was ongoing, rather than
Well, we'll make this a two-part. One thing about Trump, he's a great salesman, and he just sitting there, he's just common sense. Well, we'll build them a real nice place, somewhere they can go with pools, nice cars, Uber, someplace you want to go, and then hopefully they wouldn't be blowing up their own place, but we'll see. Anyways, if you agree with me, let me know, and if you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments. And if you could like or subscribe, I sure would appreciate it, and it helps a lot. And in the meantime, we'll see you.